Welcome to our second session on for the Do You Speak Tech Pandemic Edition, presented by the Second Language Intercultural Council and the Edmonton Regional Learning Consortium. So our session today, we're going to be focusing on apps, extensions, and add-ons. And so don't worry, we'll talk about the difference between them. And it's not necessarily super important that you be able to be tested on what the difference between those are. So if you're just joining us for the first time tonight, we do have a session with 6 different sessions. So you can click on the link there on the image in the presentation to go right to the ERLC to register for the Do You Speak Tech for any of the sessions. And again, the bit.ly at the top there is a short link for you to be able to get to our session presentation with the notes and everything else. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat, and I'll try to get to them as soon as I can, and just whenever they come up. So today we're going to reflect on and actually explore some strategies as well for increasing teacher efficacy and student engagement in the language classroom through the implementation of technologies. We've got just a few, a very short introduction before we look at, again, if this is the first time you're joining us, we're going to take a quick look at the 2 publications of research that will kind of frame some of what we're talking about tonight. Our biggest section is going to be this 3rd one here on apps. So we're going to look at some different apps and websites and try a few of them out as well. Then we will look at Chrome extensions and add-ons. If we run out of time, these are the 2 sections that we can fly through, because it's more of this extension or this add-on does this, try it, and so you'll have the presentation with all of the links and the explanations in the speaker notes so that you can explore those when you've got some time. And then we'll have some time for questions once the session is finished here. So introductions. My name is Stephanie. I work at Edmonton Public Schools at ISLE, the Institute for Innovation in Second Language Education, where I coordinate the French programs there. I volunteer for SLIC, the Second Language Intercultural Council with the Alberta Teachers Association. And one of the things that I do, part of my role is doing the Do You Speak Tech series. I do love educational technology. I found not only was it more engaging, but would really save me some time when I was teaching three different grades of French second language at the junior high level. I often had 9 classes, so about 300, 350 students, and the technology was really making that a lot more possible for me. My email address is there at the end, so please don't hesitate to email me if you have any questions. It's just stephanie.jackson@epsb.ca. So a very quick intro activity. Just tell me how you're feeling tonight. You can use any emoji that you like, or you can also use your own emoji from your phone or from your computer, or just type in the number. And this is a quick little activity that you can do with your students. If you 4, yay, I've got some happy peeps with me today, and 5s, I'm glad. And if you're not happy, that's okay if you're a little bit apprehensive. If you would like to do this activity with your students, if you're meeting online with them, please don't hesitate to copy the emojis right from my slideshow if it saves you some time. We'll also be talking about an extension, an extension later that will help you insert emojis into your emails and texts and slideshows and things like that. If you're a little bit apprehensive, that's okay. I hope that we can help you with some of these technologies today and show you that it's not so scary. My first tip before we delve into things is Google Chrome. So I know that there's quite the debate between internet browsers and what you should be using. I am going to say Google Chrome appear your browser this time because in the world of educational technology, we often are using apps that are connected with Google. So YouTube, Google Drive, Google Slides, and a lot of those apps that we're going to be talking about tonight just function a lot better in Google Chrome. So if you're ever in a Google Doc and you are working on it and you notice that it's very glitchy, it may be because you're not using Google Chrome. And please don't use Internet Explorer. It's super slow, and there's a lot of websites that don't have full functionality with Internet Explorer anymore. So an app and an extension and an add-on. I wanted to explain the difference here quickly, just so that you can get a bit of an overview of what the different functionalities are, but it's not super important that you be able to distinguish. There's also sometimes hybrids, so we'll talk about those, and I have some examples for you later on. So apps are like a computer program, but they're housed within the internet. So you need to go to a website in order to use them, or on your mobile device you would have the app that you would open, and it's basically like opening a website on your phone. Sometimes you can go to a website to use these. So if you're Kahoot or YouTube, those are also websites, as well as apps. And sometimes apps, like there's certain mobile apps that are only available on Android or only available in iOS or whatever it might be. A Chrome extension is a little mini program that attaches to like your Chrome browser, your internet browser, and just gives it a little more functionality. And then your add-ons are going to extend the capabilities of some of your Google apps. So for example, Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Spreadsheets and Forms. An add-on is going to, kind of trick it out and give it a little trick that it can do on top of the normal things. And then the hybrids. So for example, Pear Deck. Pear Deck is an app and it's also a website, but it also has an add-on for Google Slides. And we're actually going to look at Pear Deck later on tonight, so I won't spend too much time on that. So just very quickly, the two Canadian publications that we're going to be taking some research quotes from tonight to make sure that what we're talking about is data-driven and research-driven. The first one is from the CASALT, so the Canadian Association for Second Language Teachers, and you can go to their website to download or to purchase a print version of their very recent literature review on facilitating language learning through technology, and a great resource. I know that research can sometimes be very dry, but this is super easy to read. I find it extremely digestible, and you'll actually find some examples in there that you can take and implement in your classroom. And then the second publication is from ISLE, so from where I work at Edmonton Public Schools, on the characteristics of successful language programs. So a literature review on the research around the characteristics of language programming and what makes that successful. An amazing resource if you're working with teachers and trying to really, implement more quality and really move forward your language programs in your institutions. And you can click there. It's free on the Edmonton Public Schools Resource Hub, and you might even find some other resources that are there. Everything during the pandemic, we're offering our teacher-created or teacher and student resources for free, and so you can go check that out. And then there's also all of our French resources will be free because we complete those using some funding that comes from federal grants, and so check it out. Now let's get right into the big section tonight. Is going to be our apps bucket list. Now, first, before we even talk about specific apps, I want to make sure that you're not thinking that within the next week you're going to be trying all of these. Take one that kind of piques your interest that you haven't used before, or maybe an app or a website that you've used a little bit, but maybe will give you some ideas for some, more functionality or some expanded options for that website. Just take one and sit with that for like a month even. It might take you a month or 2 months to be able to get to the point where you're ready to kind of take on another app. So then you're going to go back to the presentation and kind of go through and get some inspiration and find another idea that you're going to try. But please, for your own sanity, do not try and implement everything at once. So we're looking at the research around implementing technology or computer-assisted language learning. Bringing technology into our classroom can really benefit our students by providing that authentic input and that idea of giving individualized instruction where students can work more on their own at their own pace. But the flip side of that coin is also having more collaboration, right? Which is great. Tonight, we're going to be highlighting some technologies that will really help with those two sides of that coin. So while the individualized instruction, a little bit of more autonomous working, but also especially collaboration. And when you're looking at more specifically mobile devices being implemented in the classroom, the research is finding that really helps with contributing to greater learner autonomy and encourages collaboration as well. And so when you're focusing on mobile devices, and a lot of the apps and websites and activities that we're talking about tonight can be completed on a mobile device. I think maybe 5-6 years ago, a little bit before that, if you had asked me, I would not have ever imagined students using a phone to write an essay. But who's to say that it's more comfortable to be hunched over your computer on a keyboard writing an essay than lounge back in a chair with your phone in hand and maybe even using some text to speech to help you do that writing. And so I think that it's really, mobile devices have changed learning and how we learn, and it's maybe time to embrace that because our students definitely have. Now, here's our kind of Google Apps starter pack. So some of the ones that I've pulled out, definitely not everything. Google has got a lot of apps out there. And the ones with the stars are the ones that we're going to be talking about more tonight. Google Classroom is a huge, amazing resource, but we have a session on specifically Google Classroom later on. And we also have our last session, the new normal. We'll be talking a little bit more about Google Meet. And then we also have a session in this series about YouTube. So I'm not going to be talking a whole lot about those ones tonight. With Cardboard and VR, actually, I'm not going to talk about that tonight. We're going to focus more on Drive and Keep. And the Google Cardboard and VR was more of a, if we have time, then I've got a couple slides on why you might want to use virtual reality in the classroom, but we'll take a look at that, later if we have time. So our first app and tip is a super simple one, and one that I found from a blog online that's a teacher that I follow on Twitter. But it can have some big impact because it deals with providing engaging feedback on student work, which increases motivation, and that in turn is going to lead to more learning. So this is our old school meets new school. What you're going to need with this is some student work, so either a Google Doc or a Google slideshow. And then you're going to want to use the app for Google Keep. You'll see from this little image here, if you click on this image, it will actually take you to the blog post where I got this idea from. And the teacher there gives a really great and super short tutorial on how to create and use these stickers. And it's basically a way of putting little old school stickers that you've created in Google Drawings by using Google Keep. And when you're reading student work in a Google Doc or a Google Slide, you can kind of just slap the sticker on there. This little plastique image there, if you click on there, I have a Google folder I made some stickers in French. So if you teach French as a second language, you can take those. And if not, the teacher on this blog actually put her folder of the Google Drive stickers as well. And so you can go in and use her same, make copies and, change them however you think. And so just sort of a little short, engaging little tip. If you're looking for something that's neat, try out Google Keep. Google Keep is also an extension. So you can, for example, if you're on a website and you want to keep a part of that website or write a note about it, then you can use Google Keep to do that. And so it's a neat little, functionality with that. So next, the research shows us, some of the types of activities that will help with building vocabulary and grammar. So using things that have that sort of visual word association, like flashcards, right? Little short yet authentic text like an SMS or text message, subtitling, so subtitling an image or something like that, and those kind of gaming and virtual environments. And also tasks that encourage collaboration and learning grammar and context are going to be a lot more effective at teaching our students about how to use the language than working on grammar and vocabulary in isolation. And so also bringing in this range of multimedia is not only going to interest our students more, but the research is showing that that's going to lead to better learning outcomes for our students. So with that in mind, we always want to keep our eye on the end goal, which is what students can do with the language. I don't think any of us, none of us as language teachers, our goal isn't that the students be able to list 1,000 animals and conjugate a bunch of verbs in isolation. We want them to be able to go out into the world outside the confines of our classroom and be able to do something with the language. And so when we keep that in mind, when we're bringing technology into the classroom, we want to keep in mind that we're bringing in technology that has students using the language for a purpose and something that's authentic, that exists in real life. So for example, writing a text message or a direct message, that's something that kids do hundreds of times a day. And so when you're bringing that in as a source of writing, then it's authentic. It's not only more engaging for them and more motivating, but it's also leading to better learning outcomes with regards to grammar and vocabulary. Commenting on a social media post, an infographic, that's also an amazing way to bring in some very authentic reading into your classroom. For example, I work with a teacher who found this cute infographic about common Valentine's Day traditions in France. And so she brought that into class because it was very different from here in Canada. And so some authentic and interesting reading that, is about real life people somewhere. And then when we're talking about this last captioning, a GIF, a meme, or an infographic, we're going to delve into that a little bit deeper tonight. So I'm sure you've all seen memes and GIFs and things like that around on your social media or running around the internet and your text streams and things like that. And you may not have thought about bringing these into your classroom, but there's a lot of different ways that you can use GIFs and memes in your class. So one way is get your point across with humor. So for example, this is a GIF/meme that I used in the beginning, first days of school. You could use this so my face when students use Google Translate. And it's just sort of a little reminder to them that, we're not using Google Translate to create the language in this classroom, and we can talk about it. If you click on that image, it will take you to a little playlist I have of some of those Google Translate songs. And that's a little kind of side tip for you if you're ever dealing with, that trying to make sure that kids aren't handing in work that's been translated online. Every once in a while, taking a few minutes to watch one of those Google Translate songs can really hit home that, it's not the best way to go about it. You could give the class a topic. So besides, that's more teachers created memes when we're talking about getting your point across with humor, maybe your class rules, things like that. Give the class a topic and create a slideshow of GIFs and memes. And we're going to talk about that in the next slide. I've got a resource for you for doing that in your class. You could either give the students a topic, you could give them something to a writing prompt and have them discuss that, and then take it further by having them read everyone else's sort of contributions, and so then you're extending that from not just a writing activity, right? And then bringing in authentic reading and cultural content through infographics, which we talked about a little bit earlier. So by integrating these types of text that students interact with regularly, we can really increase their engagement because we're bringing that learning from outside the classroom in, and then we're bringing what we're learning inside the classroom out into the real world for them. So it's really going to motivate them a lot more. So we're going to take a few seconds, a few minutes to actually practice this. So we've got about 4 or 5 minutes. I'd like you to go to the link in the presentation, and I will actually put it in the chat as well here. Just give me a second. And I'm going to share that screen so that we can see this here. Now, this is an idea that I got from a teacher and sort of ran with it. So you'll see here, the first slide is instructions in English. The second slide is an example. The third slide, I have instructions in French, because here in Canada, often we have, I'm working with French teachers, and so I put the instructions in French there, and then sort of an example, which is writing in French, speaking in French for pronunciation. So what's really neat with Google Slides is if you go into View Master, you can actually change the backgrounds of the slides. So I love the idea of getting students to caption memes in the class. What I don't love is them going to a meme generator online and having the whole world of super inappropriate memes open to them. And not only is that just not what I would like in my classroom, plus we're going to a meme generator. Oftentimes all of the memes are in English. And if I'm teaching a different language, I would like them to be, as much as possible in the target language. And so bringing them into this slideshow, you can go into the master and you just add slides, and you're basically like creating a slide like you normally would, except when you're done and you click to close this, it makes those slides that you've created part of, so we click on the little arrow down here, part of the background. And so you can click where the text boxes are and things like that. So I just chose some, more appropriate memes here. And so you can add whichever image you'd like. Our topic is going to be teacher, PD, or language learning. So if you want to go ahead and create your meme, this is just for us to use, and give it a try and see how that goes. If you're using this in class, I would get students to put their name in the speaker notes. If you want to know, I think I just need to fix my sharing settings. I saw an email come in. Can view. Thank you very much. I'm changing that right now to editor. And so if you refresh your page right now, you should be able to. There you go. I can see you refreshing. You should be able to edit there. Sorry about that. I thought I had fixed all the share settings on everything, but. So yes, if you are looking at doing some formative assessment with this, you may want students to put their names in the speaker notes so that you know who did what. Another way that you can use the speaker notes section is after students have been given some time to create some memes, you can kind of use that as like a comment stream. So they go and read other students' memes, and they go into the notes section and they type their name like Stephanie and like, oh, this is really funny, or things like that. And so of course you would, have to talk about respectful commenting and things like that. And the beauty with Google Docs is that no one's going to get away with anything inappropriate or bullying without you knowing who did what. And so me, after learning about all the technology I could use in class but haven't tried yet, yes. So you can see there's some kind of fun different memes, and then there's also a blank slide there that you can use. So if you have had your own image, or you can go, insert image, and if you had a different idea, and just add some of those in. But yeah, so the View Master is kind of a neat way to customize the backgrounds in slides, and a way that you can get some writing done in class, maybe extend that to some reading. I also like the idea or the fact that when they're doing this writing, it's super short and, not, you have to really condense your idea into something that's not too long. And yeah, engaging for the kids because it's sort of what they're doing on their own time anyways, looking at these kinds of things. And yeah, okay, I'm gonna go back to sharing the presentation. And also you'll see in the instructions slides on there, if you go into the notes section, there's a link, get your own copy of this template. So if you click on that link and open it, it will make a copy of the blank template for you, and you can take that and use it in your class or whatever you want. And let's move on. So another reason for promoting collaboration and this authentic interaction amongst your language learners in your classroom is because it motivates them and reduces anxiety. And that reducing anxiety, I think, especially in a second language classroom, we deal with a lot of students who have anxiety around making mistakes in the second language, or they're scared of their accent, or, a lot of our students just, have a lot of anxiety around producing the language, especially in front of peers. And so promoting collaboration and these authentic interactions is really going to help them reduce that anxiety. So that's going to lead to better learning outcomes, right? The benefits with that in mind, the benefits of collaboration, as well as the fact that the very nature of writing has changed because of technology. These collaborative writing platforms like blogs and Google Docs and social networking, that's just become very normal. And that's what writing and literature and communication is right now, right? And so being able to have our students take advantage of being able to take advantage of how writing has changed and these new technologies in our classroom is really going to set our students up for success to be able to produce a second language outside of our classroom. So another collaborative task that you can do with Google Slides is, I know, when I started teaching, I definitely spent a lot of time looking for a bunch of animal and food images, and I would give those to students, and we would, I would go through the slideshow of giving them the vocabulary, and they would write them all down, and, it would take forever. And I'm always wondering how many of those 100 food items did those students actually retain? And so a little bit of a kind of a switch in mindset is to maybe have the students collaborate together on a Google slideshow to source the words for you. So each student gets a slide, and each slide is one word. Again, if you want to see, or, for some formative assessment or see who's doing what, then you can have them put that into the notes section. If you're doing adverbs or adjectives, I suggest doing like that game 4 pick 1 word, so you actually have 4 pictures. And so, for example, if you're looking at, I'm just going to show these 2 examples here so you can see les animaux. So it's sort of 2 different ways that we've done this. So for example, with les animaux, so these are, simple vocab words, and I changed these instructions into English so that when we do sessions, you can see. So they're going to choose an animal and they claim it by typing it in French onto the slide here. So I just had a blank columns with bullets, and basically they go in and they find the animal that they wanted to add, and they're going to write it here. So once it's claimed, they insert a blank slide and they type their name in the notes section. In the title, they're going to put the name of the animal with the correct name, like the article, like une or a or the or whatever language you're teaching. And then they put in an animal on there. And so, no, they're not writing down 20 animal names, but I can guarantee you that this child remembers this animal even today. because it was something that was important enough for him to go look up the word. And also there's a bit of a process to that, right? Going to look up the word and then going to find an image, 1, 2, 3, 4. He looked it up, 6 times. And so that's really going to create, deeper learning in the student's mind. The iOS and Android image play to make your own GIFs and insert them into Google Slides. Oh, thank you, Joe, for that tip. I'm going to check that out. And then also, this student, Lavash, they really had super fun with it, for one. And then, no, I'm pretty sure that they did not remember the 200 animals list that I had given them, right? And then they also came up with some animals that I never would have thought about. Like, I wouldn't have told them a swan, but this child really wanted to know what a swan was in French. So go for it, right? And so something a little bit different. And then with, so this one was a little bit different because I actually had some words that I wanted them to use, and then they also added some as well. So for this one, if you have the list of words for them, they would claim it by highlighting the word, and then same thing, they go through and do their image. And so this one was sale, or dirty. And so you can see, if you just have the one image, does it mean dirty or does it mean dishes? And so if you have an adverb or an adjective or something, it's a lot better to have this sort of 4 images, and really helps you understand a lot better what the word means. Another idea, you can animate these titles so that when you play the slideshow for the class, they just see the images and, play a game on who can guess it first, right? So there's some examples for you. And we'll just go back to. So a similar collaboration activity that you can do, and this one was an example actually from an elementary teacher. And so trying to implement more technology in her grade 2 classroom. And so an activity for students to collaborate online. So instead of having students work together in their little groups, so this was pre-COVID, but actually an activity that transfers very nicely to online learning, because the whole goal was that students would work with students who were on different sides of the classroom. So they did all their collaboration online. And what they were doing was, I'll show you an example here. So first they would get a blank Google Drawing, or you could also do a Jamboard and a topic, so sports, and they're going to, in their groups through the chat feature in the Google Docs, decide back and forth, and who's going to take which of the boxes to fill in. And they're going to come up with some categories, and then they're going to brainstorm some words and, work on this collaboratively together to come up with as much, vocabulary and things around the topic that we're going to be introducing. So we're going to be learning about sports soon. And so here, can we, get them to elicit some vocabulary. And then the next step is for them to, in their groups, then take that and create a little poem. So they did a little acrostic poem. And so, sports, S-P-O-R-T-S. And they've got their little list of what they need to have in there. And so just a little sort of simple one class, activity, formative assessment, writing activity that they can do that's really working those collaboration online, especially skills. So that idea that when you're working on this, we need to decide who's working in each box. Otherwise, we're all going to be typing on top of each other. And when do we say, okay, I'm done with my box, can I add to another one? Or, that kind of thing. And so it's kind of getting this brainstorming and mind map done. And yeah, I'm just going to close these extra things here. Excellent. So moving on. Another collaborative Google app that you can use is Jamboard. So this is also within Google Drive, a pretty neat activity. You can brainstorm vocabulary and phrases related to a topic. You can have writing prompts, that kinds of ideas. And I've got a link here for a Jamboard that I made that if you're looking for, and it's actually a forced copy link, so it'll make a copy of this for you if you'd like to use that in your own classrooms. And it's just opening up here. And so sometimes, you know, as a grown woman, I don't know what a grade 7 kid would find authentic for writing or reading. Like, what does a grade 7 kid read nowadays? What do they write? What are they talking about with their friends? What are they listening to? What kind of music is in nowadays? And so often starting the year, it's a, you know, kind of a neat idea to actually get that from the students. So the first one is just a placemat. So you can give them one kind of Jamboard per student to put in their own ideas. What do you listen to? What do you read? What do you write? What do you talk about? And then there's some other slides here that just sort of talk about that more specifically. So what do you like to read, etc. So the first slide is the one with the placemat, is a little bit more if you were giving like one Jamboard to each student. So each student would put in more than one idea into each of those boxes. And then if you wanted to collect the ideas of kind of all the students together onto one Jamboard, then you can kind of put the question. So again, I used a meme to kind of put this boring question: what do you like to read? Blah, blah. So I put a, you know, SpongeBob there, and it's a little more, you know, a little more happy, I guess. And this is sort of more the format that you would use for the whole class. So each kid could put one idea per sticky note. And then a few just sort of tips when you're doing Jamboards with large groups. So if you're doing that, you know, you've got a class of 30 or 40 kids and you've got them all on one Jamboard, an idea is to have multiple slides. So put, you know, break your questions onto one question per slide. And then you're going to put students in groups. So you're going to break, you know, if you have 30 students and 5 slides, you're going to put 6 kids on each slide, or, you know, and then have them, you know, work through at their own pace. And so you're going to get a lot less congestion on each of the slides, and it's not as crazy. Also, tell the students not to repeat each other. So when you go to the Jamboard, if your idea is like, I really like rock music, if you want to upvote that, so you want to say, yeah, I like rock music too, you click on that sticky note and you add a star, but you're not going to make another sticky note that says, I also like rock music, right? And then placing like items together. So for example, you know, what do we like to talk about, or something like that. If you've got an idea that's different but sort of similar to someone else's, just kind of drag your sticky note in that similar kind of area. And that, you know, kind of helps for afterwards when you, if you're looking at them by yourself, it kind of helps categorize things a little bit. It's also great for the students to do that. And if you're going to kind of have a class discussion later, if you have those like items together, it really helps with that flow of discussion. And so getting the students to do that is a good idea. So students break up big groups onto multiple slides so that they're kind of all going, you know, you don't have 30 kids on one slide. Don't repeat each other, and upvote with the star. And then, yeah, just sort of check that out, Jamboard. And we are going to check it out. So I'm going to take the link here and post it into the chat. Now, this is actually a Jamboard that was started on our first session. So if you want, you can just take a look at it. And if you have a new idea, then please go ahead. Now, because on the first session, we were introducing Jamboard, I have and this is an idea for the first, I would say maybe the first 3 times that you use it with a group, is to have a sort of blank garbage slide at the beginning. And so it's a test this out. So try things. And I find if you don't do that, then your slides kind of get messed up really quick, because the kids and people just aren't really sure, because you're clicking around and stuff. And so you might accidentally delete something and not know to go Control-Z to undo it, or to hit the little back arrow to undo it. So yeah, the first time you're using it with a group, just kind of have this garbage slide. And so people can go in here and I could say, yes, I want to upvote this. This was a, yeah, it is really lots of fun with the kids. So that's an idea that I want to upvote. And then if you go through here, it was just sort of outsourcing, crowdsourcing some ideas for reading, writing, speaking, and listening in the language classroom using technology. And so these are ideas from all the participants from the first session. So if you have one that you would like to add that hasn't been mentioned yet, then please do that. This one I'm just going to put papers. So that one was for reading and writing. Yeah. See, we have one already that we can add today. We can say, make a meme for writing. Right? You can change colors and add sticky notes and things like that. So it's kind of a neat little collaborative tool for. Okay, let's go back to our slideshow. I'm starting to get the hang of the sharing different screens. Okay, moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about assessment and feedback when it comes to computer-assisted language learning and how technology can really make that feedback super easy and even automated, which is amazing. We're talking about, Google Forms and Kahoots or Socratives, and how the kids can get automatic marking and also even automated feedback, which is great. And just keeping in mind that when you're using digital assessments, that you're making sure that the test and that the assessment is aligning with your learning outcome, right? We talked about some student response systems last time, and so I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail about what each one is today, because we talked about that last time. So you can go to the ERLC's YouTube channel and check that out, or just check out the speaker notes in the bottom here of this slideshow, and you'll see about some of the student response systems and their differences. We're going to talk about Pear Deck a little bit later on. I'll introduce it, but we're actually going to try Socrative right now. So this is one that I really like personally, just because it has more than the multiple choice and true false. So you're going to go to b.socrative.com/student. You can click on the link right here. I'll also copy it into the chat if you just want to click instead of typing it out. And the room is Slick, S-L-I-C. And I'm going to go back to sharing my whole screen so that you can see. So Socrative is really a neat student response system. As you can see, I can already see in the top here how many students I have. And so I can see as you're joining them. I did put show names, so it's going to ask you what your name is when you come in, and show responses, and then show results. When I launched the quiz, I can choose whether or not to make it self-paced. So you can go back and forwards and kind of, do questions and navigate however you want. Or I can make it so that, I push out a question, and when everybody answers, I push out the next one, so it, is really responsive that way. Completely free as well for educators, which is awesome. And then what's kind of cool is when I go here to the click on a specific question, I can actually see the different answers. So that's kind of cool. And I can just go forward here and I can show the results. I can see, via percentage as well. And it tells me 1 out of 8 has answered. And so it doesn't show the results until you click, which is really neat. You can, as you see, I've added some GIFs and memes, and there's some images. There's some memes for, image. Yeah, you can add images and that as part of you can also, of course, choose if it's A, B, C, or D that's correct, but then you can also give some feedback. So I'm going to wait because I don't want to kick you all out of the room to go and show you. Actually, I might be able to. Yeah, you can still go. So for example, with this one, So this is me, you know, actually doing the quiz. I can share it. So if I give this number to you, for example, you can take that number if you'd like, it's not a problem. It'll give you a copy of this quiz. So you can share quizzes back and forth, which is really neat. Now, if I go on edit here, I can actually give an explanation. So I can, you know, once they've typed in an answer or something, then I can say, you know, thank you very much for your response, or I can give them some kind of feedback. I can actually add an answer, so a correct answer, and I can add more than one. So if I'm doing, you know, some vocab or grammar work with students, I can put in, you know, that is looking for those short answers. And then of course, on a multiple choice, I can choose one or two or multiple answers as being correct. So then the student would be told whether or not they got that correct. And I can choose when I'm launching the quiz, whether or not they get the feedback right away or later. So that's kind of neat. And that's, again, just a short answer. And so I just add a question, multiple choice, true or false, short answer. So for example, if I'm adding a short answer, you just type it in here. And here's some possible correct answers. If I want to add an image, like super user-friendly, it's pretty explanatory, self-explanatory what to do. And if not, then you're going to check out YouTube, right, for tutorials. What's also cool is you can, for free, customize the name of your room. So for this session, I called it Slick. I can't do that right now because there's people in the room, but, and so if I go back to my results, I can see here, sort of in a grid fashion. I can also download these into a spreadsheet. I've done a writing activity with kids before where like I downloaded basically the class list as questions. And so each question was a student's name. And then when students would answer the Socrative, they would compliment each student. So they would, you know, would say Jean Arscott, and you'd say, oh, you're really nice. And then the next question would be Sarah, and she would say, oh, you're super smart. Or we were practicing compliments, and it was kind of a neat activity. And then you can actually, you know, download that spreadsheet and print it off for students and give them little bookmarks with all their little compliments. So it's sort of a really neat app that is, if you've used Kahoot before, very, very similar. The difference is that you can do short answer. And then also there's a game where it's a space race. So the kids pick like a little rocket or a spaceship or whatever, and they have to, you know, answer all the questions right to race to the end. And so they find that a lot of fun. Okay. I'm going to move on to extensions. So we talked about how extensions are things that make Google Chrome sort of more fun, just give it a little bit more functionality. And so here are a bunch of different ones for you. And I'm just going to show you quickly how that sort of works. So for example, tab scissors and tab glue. Have you ever like wanted to look at one website on one of your screens and then have, you know, I've got all of these windows open, but I kind of want like these three to be split away. So what I'm going to do is tab scissors them, and then it's going to split my screens into two. And then when I want them to come back, I'm just going to use tab glue to make sure that they go back together. Well, because of the there you go. And then it's just going to glue them all back together. So just an easy way of kind of like splitting your screens up if you're ever doing work on one screen and need to copy to another, et cetera, et cetera. Adblock, I'm got the link up there for you. I'm just going to fix that link because it's not link, but that's the one that's going to get rid of YouTube commercials. So you're not going to have the ads on YouTube, but it also has, okay, I'll have to I'll put in the link to that one later. For some reason, it didn't link in there, so I'll just have to do it later. But yeah, that's a great one for getting rid of pop-ups on different websites, but also especially the YouTube ads, because I find especially when you're teaching a foreign language, sometimes the ads are quite inappropriate. Turn off the lights is a neat one too. What it does is, so you've got the YouTube video and everything else around it just goes to black. So it's a little bit less distracting. So it's kind of a neat one. If you work on a lot of documents and you copy and paste a lot, you're going to love Clipboard History. So for example, have you ever copied something into a document and then you'll go copy something else, and like maybe the next day you needed that website again, so you have to go Google it and open it, then get the link and copy it again, or you just insert Clipboard History, add that extension, and it keeps a copy or keeps track of all of your things that you've copied to the clipboard in the past. And so kind of a neat way to save some time there. Another great one for language teachers to save some time is Accent Grid. And so with Accent Grid, what this does is it adds this little accent here, and you can customize these. So I've put in all my French accents that I like. And if you right click and click on options, now in the past you had to have the HTML code, so that's what I have, but you don't need that anymore. You can just type the accent or the weird character that you want, just type it in there or copy and paste it in. So you do that once, and then I have all of my accents here. And if I want this A, for example, then I'm just going to go like that and paste it. And so I can paste it into a document. I copies it to the clipboard. So even if I'm using like a Word document, it'll work, which is really neat. And you see here, option save successfully. So you see, I don't have to have the HTML code. I can just type in the accent and that works fine. And so that's a good one for language teachers. If you're using Google Classroom and you've ever wanted to, especially if you're can use in the classroom, I would have this up on the smartboard, but you can also for online classes, if you're asking a question, you want to randomly select a kid, you get this random student generator from Google Classroom. And then when you click on the extension, it just has a list of your classes from Google Classroom. You click on that, and then it will give you a random student name to answer your question. So that's kind of a neat one there. Next one for reading and writing, I've got these together. So read and write for Google Chrome is an extension that will, it's also an app that will help with doing speech to text, text to speech. It also has where it text prediction. You can highlight text, get visual dictionaries and glossaries and things like that. And so it's a great inclusive tool when you've got different levels in your classroom. You've got some students that may need some support with reading and writing, and they've got a whole bunch of different languages. Even Chinese is getting better and better on read and write for Google. So please check that out if you have some students that may need some support with reading and writing. Small PDFs, so edit, compress, and convert PDFs. Basically, if you're looking to take PDFs and easily put them into your Google Docs or Google Slideshows, that's a great extension for that. And I've got 2, or I guess 3 here for kind of online video and things. So Screencastify is an extension that will record a video from your webcam or a video of your screen. So like if I was doing this presentation not on Zoom, I could use Screencastify to record the screen. Google Meet breakout rooms makes breakout rooms. So you can say, my class of 30 kids in my Google Meet, in my video conference, I'd like to have 6 different rooms, and it'll put the kids in there. You can then kind of randomize where they go, or you can make specific kids in each group. It's really neat. And then finally, the grid view there is just a grid view for Google Meet. These ones are just some fun. So now that you've added all of these extensions, you're going to get Extensity. So what that does is instead of having instead of having a bunch of little extension icons that you would kind of have to sift through and it takes up a lot of space on your Chrome browser, you just have Extensity and it makes them into one nice list. If you ever want to insert Bitmojis or emojis into your writing, your emails or whatever, even GIFs, there's some little extensions there that you can use. WebPaint will let you highlight, paint, draw on any website. So that can be really helpful when you're trying to point things out to students. And then especially for online learning, this custom cursor for Chrome will make your cursor, sort of just big and hard to miss. So if you're having students look at things online through an online class, or even, to be able to see the cursor from the back of the room if you're in person on the smartboard, having a nice big kind of multicolored cursor can really help with that. Now, One that used to be an add-on but is now an extension is Draftback, and this is pretty cool. So what it does is you've got a document, you install Draftback. If you click the Draftback extension, it comes up on the Google Doc. There's a little, you'll see here in this GIF in this video that there's Draftback. So you click that. So this is the guy, he's typing, he's making his document. So your students are working. Then you click on Draftback, it creates a video of that. So you can really see students' writing process, which is great for conversational evidence of learning. So when you're looking at that sort of talking about our learning and how we learn, then this is a great tool for students, but it's also great for the teacher. If you're ever not sure if maybe they had used, like a translation tool or something, well, you see that right away because they would have a large portion of text that just gets pasted in. So all of a sudden they've got this paragraph that like just shows up. And so that's a great neat little tool. Now, very quickly, I'm going to show you a few add-ons. So doc to form, especially if you're new to technology, this might be a neat one for you, because if you still have a lot of tests that are in Word documents, you can upload those Word documents into Google Drive, convert them to a Word doc, and then use this add-on to turn them into a Google form. So then you can have automatic marking, no more, Scantron paper cuts and things like that. So that's kind of neat. And also, if you're a huge fan of Microsoft Word and you've tried using Google Docs, but maybe there's one or two features that just isn't in Google Docs yet, if you do the Doc Tools add-on in Google Docs, it has a lot of those. So for example, being able to sort a column in a chart in a Word or in a Google Doc, you can do it in the Google spreadsheet, but not in the doc. And so with Doc Tools, it'll do that. Easy Bibliography, so just helps you really insert super easy bibliographies. An awesome add-on. Easy Accents, it brings up just a little window on the side with the accents that you might need, and so you just have to click on them, and really easy for students to add into documents. And if you ever have, for example, an assignment that you're giving kids on a Word doc, and maybe they have to go watch a video for some instructions or some cultural content, if you have the DocuTube add-on, then you can play YouTube videos right inside the Google Docs. So then the kids aren't leaving that assignment, and just makes it, even more accessible right in there. Next I'm going to mention is this Meister, which takes a bulleted list and turns it into a mind map. So super simple, but really, really functional. Two of kind of my favorite ones that I've left for last year is Kaizena. So this is for docs and slides, and it allows you to have audio feedback. So you can leave audio comments for kids on their work. And then Orange Slice is a way for you to, if you have an assignment for kids, on the assignment that you're giving out, for example, in Google Classroom, you can put the rubric in the bottom of the document and then use Orange Slice to kind of click, what they got in each of the sections on your rubric. It'll add it all up. It puts the total in the title of the document, so it's super easy for you later to, transcribe that into your grading system, whatever that might be. Sends an email to the kid. And so, yeah, just a really neat rubric. And there's also a student version if you want students to give peer feedback. So you can also check that out. And I see that our time is up, so I'm not going to talk about Pear Deck a whole lot, except to say that it's super cool. This is an example. So besides the multiple choice and short answer, they also have these dragging and draw questions. So for example, you can give thumbs up and thumbs down, and you can see where all of the students have put their cursor. And so that's kind of a neat thing. There's a little demo video there that you can check out. So it's an app, but it's also a slides add-on. So I could add this to my slides from today, and I could just go to my slide here and ask you to draw a circle around or drag your cursor to whichever add-on you're going to try tomorrow, for example. And so a super, super cool app and add-on. So I actually suggest trying the add-on first, especially if you've got a lot of really nice Google slideshows that you're using in your classrooms, because it's just making them a little more interactive. The multiple choice and text number are part of the free version, and the draggable drawing is part of the paid version. But check with your district, because there's a lot of school districts out there. Like I believe Edmonton Public Schools, we have a license for our teachers. So if you sign on with your school email address, then you get the full version. So just check that out. We're a couple minutes over, but not too bad. If there's any questions that you'd like to share. You can throw those in the chat while you're thinking. If you've got some questions, and that I'll just share with you that I got my slides from Slides Carnival again tonight. So if you weren't with us in the first session, this is and their links is right there, a website that has free slide decks for Google Slides or PowerPoint. And they come with all of these neat little, my colleagues call them the wingdings, but they're, neat little icons and stuff. And they've got some graphics for you to make infographics and that. So it's great. I'm not seeing. Here we go. I got the sense that all of these tools would be easily accessible to students who have Chrome or Google Suite. Were there any that students would have to create their own account, log out, or download an app? So with most any of the apps, if you're ever looking to get feedback from the students in that, or for you to be able to see their work, or for them to be able to come back to it, then they're going to have some kind of an account. Now, with regards to the Google Slides, or with Google accounts, that is free. So if your district is not a Google Apps district, or if you don't have the Google Workspace for Education, then that's actually free. So you can go to their website and get your school, or have your school or your school district do that for free. And if not, creating a Gmail is free. So you can use any of those tools with Gmail or with a straight Google account. With regards to the extensions, you can add them. You don't need an account, but if you ever sort of got logged out of Chrome, then you would have to put them in, you would have to install them again. So that's why we log into Chrome, so that, it saves all of that. And then for Socrative, there's no sign in. So like you did tonight, you go and you just put in the room number. And so there's no, sign in or anything like that you need to do. And I think that's about, I hope that answers your question with that. Thanks. And then for the upvote on the Jamboard, I have students put a star. So like if somebody has a sticky note that you thought was super, like, I agree with that, upvote it, then just add a star. And so sometimes you'll have 4 or 5 stars. We actually I got that from when we were doing like the awards night for the school, and the teachers would all go, kind of look at different things and, put stars, and that really helped, I thought. I'm just gonna scroll up and see if there's any more questions. So the slideshow, I put the link in there. And I'm sorry, I just put it in again. I haven't tried Moat, but I've heard about it, so I'm going to do that.